guys. Welcome to the Sometimes You'll Go to Bed Angry podcast, where we talk about all things love and marriage, baby carriage, and all of our baggage. Please feel free to keep up with us at RochelleSoyola.com, Rochelle Soyola on YouTube, Rochelle Soyola on Instagram, everything Rochelle Soyola. To my left, maybe your right or left, I'm not sure. This is hubby, Samuel Shoyola, the man, the big dog.
What's going on, people?
What's
Good
up,
to see
babe?
y'all.
How you feeling? Let me turn.
Feeling
this
good,
you.
man. Feeling really good. In
Yeah.
a good space, you know.
Yeah.
Just living a life.
It's been a really long time.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
We had to dust off this thing. It had cobwebs on it because it's been so long. I know, like, people are probably like, oh, another podcast.
Right.
But we actually have 66 episodes in the tuck, I think. Like, we've been here a while.
Yeah, it's been a moment, but
yeah.
it's good to have us back, you know?
Yeah. I'm good to be back too. I feel like this is like just the right time for us. And I feel like, you can't pour into others without being for yourself. And I feel like we're finally at that place where we're full, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Trying to get back to the people.
Yeah. So I guess we should like tell everybody what's been up. We have been great. Baby girl is 2.5 this December.
Yeah.
She is going on 15. Like, she is just awesome. She's talking. She is,
copying everything we say.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Developing her own personality. I just love her so much, and we love her so much. And I'm just like, it's seeing her grow.
Grabbing stuff off the table and hiding it somewhere.
Exactly. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm like, who are you? Like,
right.
But then I'm also like, that's my child. That's my child. But yes, well, all right. So before we kind of get into our topic today, we wanted to obviously talk to you about why we changed the name of the podcast. That is something new that you're hearing. And just also why we took a break. I feel like we owe that to our listeners. You can't just ghost. We can't ghost them and then not like talk about what happened. So that's what we're gonna do today. And then we actually have some meat for you, something for you to take away. It's not just about us, it's about you. So
something to chew on,
Let's get into it. So from my side, because I have a reason and you have a reason, and they have nothing to do with one another, and I think that's great, right? Because I feel like that's an example in marriage where, like, there are times when you and your spouse, you guys have your own individual path. You guys are, walking your own individual walk, and, a lot of times you're going to have your thing going on, he's going to have his thing going on, and the beauty of marriage is figuring out how to make that, like, gel, yeah, right? And for us, gelling meant taking a break.
Yeah.
So
we had to coalesce before we kept coming back to you guys.
Yeah.
So.
Because I think it's important to us that we always want to be genuine, right? Like, I know that there are so many podcasts where, like, the creators are like, we don't even like each other, or our life is crap, but we're going to do this podcast. And not to say that we're not a married couple. Obviously, we might have our own fusses and stuff, but just on a whole level, we want to make sure that we feel worthy enough, I guess, to do this podcast. And so that's important to us.
Yeah, it's important what she said in particular about, like, us having our separate journeys and us having our own journey together, because it's just it's kind of part of our morals in general, where we just feel as though you first got to take care of self, and then after you've taken care of self, you then it branches out, right? So you take care of self, then that branches out to you take care of family, then after you make family whole, then you take care of other people or pour out to other people as best you can in that regard. So it would be hypocritical of us to be taking care of people outside of our home without first taking care of home first. So.
And I feel like in this social media, be an influencer, become a millionaire from your podcast, like, society, they're like, how are you going to stop podcasting? You're going to lose your momentum. And it's just like,
it's the hamster wheel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
people jump off that thing.
We got to be right up in this household. Okay. So let me talk to you guys about my side. So from my side, for me, it was professionally. Like it was looking at Single with Strategy, seeing how it was growing on Instagram, but knowing in my heart of hearts that while I do love dating content and that isn't going anywhere, I just wanted more, something more well-rounded. And I really had to sit and ask myself, big picture, where do I see this going, or where do I want it to go, right?
Right.
And so that was a big thing for me. And I'm like an executor. Like if I know what I want to do, I'm like boom, boom, you know. But I just kept finding myself not sure enough to move on anything, and that's just not like me. And so, there are many times where I was like, well, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do something different, maybe I should, and I just didn't feel still about any of it.
So would you say that the single with strategy kind of was like almost putting you in a box?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's just
Yeah.
like that's who I am. I think I'm always going to talk about love and relationship. That is never going to change.
Mm-hmm.
But like I wanted to do a lot more things, and if you follow me on Instagram, you will see that. You will start to see what those things are, and so I was just kind of stuck. And
Yeah.
I know people are like consistency is key, but I'm like if you're consistently putting out crap, I'm not with that.
Yeah.
So like I would rather take a break. Also, I just think based on the timing of Hill, like I'm really intentional with my parenting. At least I try to be most days. And it if you just throw your kid a tablet, sure, I could podcast. But if you are truly trying to teach your child and be there every second of the day and make sure they have what they need, it's time consuming. And I also don't think that we had a good like time management thing going on just because we weren't in that place. We're gonna get to that. Like right now, the baby's sleeping. We got it on lock. We got it on control. We know we can
Right.
podcast, you know? And so, yeah, like for me, it was a professional thing, like not really being sure on how I wanted to move in this thing. And now I feel like I'm in a better place. I know exactly how I want this to go. Obviously, you're hearing a lot of name changes, and that's why. That's part of why, because I've restructured things in a way that feels right to me, not just now, but what I can foresee long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only so many questions you can have about the dating pool.
Not only
So,
that, but like I just still want to give people more. Like there's more to me than that. Like in the
I
house,
feel you.
my friends know, I'm doing way more things than just thinking about dating all day.
Oh,
First
yeah.
of all, I'm a married woman,
Right.
so I try not to be detached, but in some shape or form, I am. Like I'm not in the dating field. I can give you advice and sound counsel from what I think of, how I think the dating pool is, and coming from a married woman. But I'm still not a single woman. I would like to show people the other sides of Roe, and I'm excited for that to
Yeah.
happen. And you saw, you saw me. You know me. Like if I'm not sure on something, I'm usually sure on things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my side.
Okay.
Um,
And
I'd love for you to just talk about your side, and also just like the place you were in, what was going on, and yeah, just let the people know.
yeah, man. I think overall, man, I was working a job. I'll definitely call it that, but it was really equipping me for where I'm at now. But overall, it was one of those places where it's like dang near a sweatshop, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it was a really, really just it took a toll on me, and the pay wasn't that great either. So
Yeah.
you can only imagine. And even my church members will tell you, like I was really fervently just like praying, like I need to find a new job, I need to find some type of avenue to kind of make that switch. And I had at the time just decided to invest in myself and push for a different career, still in IT, but
Like
just
more of a specialty.
yeah, more of a specialty.
Yeah.
As my coach said, he said there are riches in niches. So we found the niche that I wanted to do, and I pursued it. And it was that whole
Just that process.
so during that whole process, right? Like I'm doing all the training and stuff like that, and everything's kind of clicking. I'm a people will tell you in general, I'm a very optimistic type of dude. So I'm thinking like, as soon as I get out of here, I'm gonna put these changes on LinkedIn and I'm gonna get a job like that.
Yeah.
God had a whole different plan for me, man. So overall, it was one of those things where I put in the time as far as for the training. I got on LinkedIn. I changed some things. Uh, Sometimes things were clicking. Sometimes they weren't.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
you
Sometimes
have
I
a
would get calls, and
phenomenal,
then there would be spells where I wouldn't get calls.
you had a phenomenal resume. But then we
Yeah.
still went through a season where it was like, even in spite of that, it was dry for a while. And
Yeah.
so,
And then there were also like situations where I'd actually get the interview. So I get the interview. I would prep for it and everything like that, and then you just don't get that call back, or you call to check, and they were like, yeah, we decided to choose a different candidate, stuff like that,
yeah. And now that you got the
So
job that you have, it's just like those job interviews, it wasn't the right fit.
oh, it was
What,
funny. It
cause
was
what you
funny.
have
Like
now
the
is
job I
definitely the right
got
fit.
now, we actually some of our clients, about 3 or 4 of our clients, are people I interviewed for jobs for.
Yeah. But like,
So
what I love the
it's
most
very
is that
interesting.
it was the right fit. Like now in retrospect, it's like the job that you had now was like the right fit.
Oh yeah,
And
for
at
sure.
that time, we're going on interviews and you were going on interviews. Sorry, you guys say we. You're going on interviews and we're just
She
like,
was helping me prep.
why are you not getting the job? Like, what's going on? And I'm gonna talk to you about where my head was at during that too in a little bit. I'm like, why are you not getting the job? But now that he has a job, I'm like, it was the right fit. And I'm not just talking about salary. I'm talking about like exactly what he's doing, exactly what his work, the company he's at. Everything is just like perfect. And in retrospect, I can see why God took us through that season, really to help strengthen our marriage,
Yeah.
and just kind of teach us how to, really stick through it. What I want to hear you talk about though is like how you felt as a man, the person that you became. Yeah, we getting deep. We getting deep because the people.
Well, I
There's somebody
mean,
out there who
all right.
feels the same way that you felt, and and we want them to know that this is a safe space. And
So just so y'all know, this is Ro putting me on the couch, literally.
this is saying that we have like
yeah.
everybody's like, Rochelle, you really should have been a therapist.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I'm like giving someone the real deal, I'll be like, look, I'm putting you on my couch now. That's what he's saying.
So let's see. So I mean, I would say it was interesting, right? So during the training, there was even a part during the training where I remember when I made my first change on my LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and I remember, like, I think my boss had went to some type of convention or something like that, and I liked something that he had said on LinkedIn. All I did was like it.
Yeah.
And the next day, I get called in to my boss's office, right? And like I said, this is low paying job, hard labor type of stuff as far as for what you got to deal with, the mental toll anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he basically dresses me down. He basically dresses me down and lets me know that you're not ready for it yet. You're not there. And I'm just like, and I ain't gonna lie. Like I really came home I remember that night. I was just like, bruh, like,
Yeah.
what am I doing?
And I literally said to him, I said, well, you sound like you need to get out of there.
Yeah.
That's what I was like, you need to get out of there.
Yeah, she gave me we definitely gonna get the escape plan all laid out. Yeah. So, and it was one of the things where it always makes you wonder, am I worthy enough? Like,
Yeah.
shout out to Coach Boyd Cluis, and how he was just able to like let us know, like, get out of that imposter syndrome mode. You think you don't deserve these things, but you are qualified. The training I am giving you is going to qualify you, and whatever training it is that you might be, interested in, that's going to kind of specialize you as well. Don't doubt don't doubt your skills when you have them.
Yeah.
Don't doubt them, because the job market needs them. The job market definitely needs them, and I mean that's really what it was. And I would say another part that kind of was discouraging at first was your interview process. So like there were several times where Ro and I were basically, she's got note cards for me, I got note cards, and we just doing quick rapid fire type of questions and getting ready for anything that could possibly be asked during these interviews. and I'm giving them my best answers, and sometimes they just throw one out of left field, and maybe you don't know it, but then you just keep on trucking, and before you know it, you find an actual job that's a good fit for you, and then when you get the job, that's the other thing. When you get the job, you start to realize how qualified you actually were. Like
Yeah.
at that point, you start to see like, oh man, like, oh, this is it.
Yeah. So okay. So Sam is saying he's saying something, but he's not really saying what
Okay.
he needs to say. So I'm gonna help him out a little bit. So the silver lining, or in the gray area of that, is when you have a husband that he knows he needs to make more financially.
Mm.
He knows that he, needs a new career, needs a career, not a job, and even before he started his, IT boot camp, during the process, of just doing interviews, he's feeling defeated. So there was a great portion of this time in our lives where Sam, as much as I love you, you were very irritable.
Hmm.
You were very hard to be married to.
I was real short tempered, man. It was crazy. Like it was like, and there was just a lot going on, man. There was health condition issues. There was just the grind of work and study, and there were people getting fired at my job. Therefore, it put more workload on some of us at the on the lower levels or whatever like that. And
And it's like,
yeah,
workload, I don't even want to be here.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, as you try your, it's funny because I always tell people that or people tell me, I would say that I have a lot of patience, but you really know whether you have a lot of patience until when you get tried, right?
Yeah.
Like when you really are, putting your feet to the fire, and that's really why I think God kind of showed me I need to be even slower to anger, right? Um,
Which is crazy
that
because
kind of goes to our,
you literally, when we first met, that was one of the things I loved about you, and still do. You were slow to anger. I remember saying that very distinctively in my head before saying yes. But just seeing you in that season, when you're pushed to like just feel like your back is up against the wall, you're just not hitting it. It will make anybody just be a different person, and I think that's what you were. One of the things that I do want to talk about is, this idea of success, right?
right,
Like everybody's kind of like, I want to be successful. I want to be a boss. I want to be a this. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Especially when it comes to marriage. One of the things that you want your husband to be is a provider. Like that's
right,
important. Like make no mistake there, right? And so, but there's this thing that we do that you kind of did when you were in your season, where it was just like you want your man to be successful, but you don't want success to become his identity.
oh yeah.
Like you don't want his identity to stop being rooted in Christ and start being rooted in
Let me touch on
this
that
job
real
and
quick.
how successful I am.
So like there was a conversation that I had to have with her mom, right? Because she was also kind of like, her mom's a very very like, she tries to be very impartial, right? So like she is one of those women who is looking out for our marriage
Yeah.
and not just out for Ro. I know some of y'all got in-laws like that who just looking out
Mm-hmm.
for the, for the child that they had, and they don't necessarily care whether the marriage survives or not. But shout out to Miss Nicholson, Mama Nicholson. So one thing she told me was like, Sam, you don't want to get so optimistically or like don't get married to the position, right? Like you're
Yeah.
married to Ro. Like if you're getting too if your hopes are set so much on the position, this is why you're gonna end up mistreating and saying the wrong things to Ro. You're gonna end up, being very, very snappy and just like, irritable to Ro. And so, I just got to the point where I was like, it's kind of like back in the day we used to make beats to say, "Don't marry the beat," you know what I'm saying? Because You don't know who you're gonna actually sell that record to. It might not be for you. It might be for someone else. Yada yada yada. And it's the same thing when it came to the jobs. Like you just don't get married to any of the interviews. Like go on there. Boyd used to say it all the time. He would say, go to your interview and just have fun. Just enjoy yourself. It is a process. It's actually honing you for whatever job it is that you are going to get in the future. Mm-hmm. So just go on there. Don't get so committed. But then if the blessing does come, praise God.
Yeah. The thing
I had to ask people to pray for me on that. I remember that.
You did. And I had to too. I was like, somebody help him. But here's the thing. When success becomes like who you are, it can be a very, very, very scary thing, right? And again, like I'm not saying that purpose doesn't include, providing. I'm not saying that purpose doesn't include, being successful financially. It does, right? But you still have to be able to balance that. And that was what our counselors were pouring into us during that time. That's a big part of that, and I'm so grateful for that. Now, obviously we told you how Sam was feeling. Now,
let's talk about you.
Let's go back to me.
All right.
Because everybody always talks about how like a great wife sees the vision, a great wife like suffers well. So if your husband is having a period where he feels like he needs to change careers, and like you should be able to suffer well. And I'm here to tell you that I was not suffering well. And I want to like say that because I know that there's somebody listening to this podcast that's like, girl, everybody makes it seem like, oh, my husband has a new idea? Sure. And I'm like, no, like especially with my brain, the way God made me, or my flesh, I'm just not that girl. I'm just not that girl. And so like, even though it was his journey and his career that was changing, I was the one experiencing him. I was the one. At this point, I'm like, do I need to go get a job? Like, like what am I doing with my life? What is my purpose? Like, and I'm just like in a dark, dark, dark cloud. I became a person that I am just not like myself, and so it's just like I wasn't suffering well either. And it's like,
you had particular feelings. Like you had feelings of like, I was like,
am I depressed?
Yeah, am I depressed? Or there were times where you would say you'd feel like, am I lazy? And it's like, no, you're not. You're not at all. Like you're doing so much work at home.
But you know what? I remember like even taking care of Hillary and just like not being motivated to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And now I'm just like, I don't feel that way at all. Like I wake up and I'm just like, now granted sometimes I have a delay in the day. I feel like I can do that being that I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
But there's a flexibility in that. But when I get up, I'm just like, okay, what are we doing today?
Right.
And I was not like that, just during that season. And so it also affected me too. Like that's one thing I would love for you to share. Like husbands, like when you're going through things, it affects your whole family.
Yeah, it definitely does. I would say there are probably a lot of guys out there. A lot of guys with average incomes and just and you're trying your best to keep it all just held down, but even though you're holding it down and you're paying all the bills, you know that there has to be more to life than this, right?
Yeah. I was about to say that. So let's be clear. Even though he was not where he wanted to be financially, I was still a stay-at-home mom, and he was still taking care of all the bills. Let's be clear. It just wasn't. We needed more room.
Yeah, and even if you and your wife might be splitting bills, it's all good. But I'm just here to say that I know for a fact that when my income increased,
so did your spirits.
well, it's like a level of peace that you get, right? Like your lady, after she knows that she can just like really truly just kind of sit back and rest in her femininity, it's one of the things where it's like, okay, now we're kind of on cruise control, right? Like, and I'm still like, the funny thing is that I'm still trying to figure out how I can even double my income now, triple my income now. So like, that is still something I'm growing into.
Yeah.
But like I'm telling you, man, when you really actually strive for more, whether it be self propelled or maybe it's something that you know you're inspired by your wife in order to do it so that she can have certain type of leisures of her own or whatever like that. Whatever your motivation is, I'm telling you, when you go for it in that lane of provider, you know, one of the four P's, we've talked to you guys about that before. Yeah, it's it's night and day
Yeah.
the way that you relate with your wife versus how you relate when you know the bills are tight. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, what I want our listeners to take away from this is, because they are more than likely single in the in the dating field, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
the biggest thing
We've
I want
seen the numbers.
the biggest thing I want them to take away is, sorry, dating starts with you.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like, we probably would have been in a different ball game had you had done this before we got married,
Absolutely.
right? And so, you know, it's important that when you're dating, a lot of times we are like looking across the hall, like, or across the pool, and we're just like, what? I'm looking for some. Well, we're like, no, sorry, I said that wrong. Like a lot of times we're like, who, who, who? No, I said that right actually. Who? What can you do for me? Like, what can you do for me? Like, you're looking for the person who's like, I wanna I want a wife that does this, is this,
Okay,
this,
yeah,
this,
I got
this,
you.
this, right? And for the woman, you're like, I want a man who does this, is this,
Mhm.
and you hyper focus on that, and then what happens is, you know, you're so busy focusing on what that other person could do to you that you fail to realize that you are unequipped and nobody
Yeah.
really should be marrying you.
Yeah.
You know, and so
And there's so many times where we and even if you did, let's say someone did marry you, right?
yeah,
You propose to someone, you've convinced them that you are husband material. I still feel as though even in that, right, like you still have to admit to yourself, like, hey, there were and are things that I should have come into this a little bit better equipped on.
yeah.
And
And I
that's
love
kind of what
and
that's kind of like
you
what
did
the
that for me, and
right.
so I love you for that. Like, you know, like you were very you gave me that talk. Like, hey, like, you know, I'm sorry, I failed you in this degree, and it's only up from here. And so it's not to say that you're gonna that you need to be looking for somebody perfect, right? Because we're against that too. It's gonna be something that you have to grind with your husband with, grind with your wife with, right? That's just called marriage. But I do believe that there should be a baseline.
Yeah.
And a
We're
lot
gonna
of
be talking
times,
about that over the next couple
a
episodes.
lot of times people are looking across when they really need to be looking within.
Looking with them,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, I mean, and saying that to say, you're never gonna be ready. Like I just said, like you're never gonna be ready. There's gonna be something or some season that you're gonna have to go through, and our season right now could change. You could get fired. I could decide that I want to go back to work after the kids are. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't know how God is gonna like call your heart in the next couple of years. This is till death do you part. You don't know what's gonna happen,
Right, right, right.
but you know, I do believe
But
that.
she ain't going back to work, y'all.
I do believe. You see. It's so funny because like the stay-at-home mom thing. We're gonna talk about that in another podcast. Because I'm about to get off my chest. But yeah. But there will always be something. But there should be a baseline to where after you guys say I do, you guys can have a loving and fruitful and fulfilling marriage together.